But back to the question that is being asked around the internet. Does Phil Spencer need to go, Paris Lilly?
First off, I slacked you something that Mike Ybarra said. You may want to check.
I was going to say, you slacked me. Do not let me start this conversation.
Yeah. But to answer your question, because I've been thinking about it this whole time through the break, and I'm going to say no. Phil Spencer should stay as a CEO of Xbox, of Microsoft Gaming. I personally think if he was not there, it could be worse. I really do think that, because I think the little that we do know of Phil, he seems to genuinely care about gaming. And I think what we're seeing right now is the ugly, nasty business side of it. And clearly tough decisions are being made. And I do not agree with them at all. So I would be clear about that. But I think of the previous leadership before he started. I think of if this was Don Matrick right now, Xbox probably wouldn't even have a console. They probably would be completely third party at this point, and you probably would see more of a cutthroat mentality. I think, again, if a Bobby Kotick was running Xbox right now compared to Phil Spencer, it would be drastically different and even worse than what we're seeing today. So I'm going to lean towards no. I would want him to stay as the leader of Xbox, but I hope, and I'm sure they're listening to this feedback, they're hearing what we're saying and what other people are saying, and they can be more, what's the word I'm looking for? They can show more grace towards these studios, because again, and I'll just say this and be quiet, this brings it back to Hi-Fi Rush. I think this is just the big thing that highlights all of this. Hi-Fi Rush is supposed to be the point of doing all of this. What's the phrase? And I'm probably going to butcher it. Rising tides
lifts all boats.
All boats, right? Hi-Fi Rush should be that little boat that rises because you have a Call of Duty that brings you in all this money, right? So that's how I see it, to where we're going to lose innovation in this industry. We're going to lose our top talent in this industry because of things like this. And we're going to get these cookie cutter, play it safe games that doesn't do anything to push this industry forward if we keep down this path. So I hope that answers it.
It does. It inspires the conversation. I do want to bring up, this is a great tweet you just slacked over that is happened right as I guess we were getting ready, or in the middle of our show here. This is from, like you said, Mike Ybarra. This is the former president of Blizzard Entertainment, a former VP at Microsoft, right? It's a long one. Stick with me. I see a lot of shots at Phil over today's Xbox announcements. I get it. But knowing him as a human, I know this hurts him as much as anyone else. I can't speak for all the leadership there, but I do know him, and I do know what he is likely going through. I'm not trying to defend the decisions. I think we all get ourselves into situations that are tough and unexpected. Parentheses, I certainly have. It's part of the job, as is the accountability for the outcomes. But he's a good human, and he cares deeply for the creative process and developers. That's my firsthand experience in working closely with him for 8+ years and knowing him for 24+. I 100% understand the anger and confusion, and I feel deeply sorry for those teams impacted today and over the last few months. I didn't agree with every decision he made at Xbox, and I think that was pretty clear. But I do believe in his product leadership, and I know how hard these decisions can be. Xbox could have a very bright future. I hope they are able to realize it, and all of the teams have an incredible experience together. It's certainly a tough time that needs great clarity into what the plan ahead is and how gamers everywhere can be excited for it. Gary, what's your take on does Phil need to go, as the chat continues to say that?
Just to address that part first, I don't think Phil is having a good day today. I think
we know that. We don't need to think that, especially for the Phil we know.
He's not having nearly as bad a day as the countless people who have lost their jobs.
Sure.
But he's not happy today, right? I'm sure he's gutted that it's come to this. To answer your question, does he need to go? I had a minute because of the commercial to really think about my answer, and the best answer I can give you right now is I have no fucking idea, because I try to be conscious of the things that I know and don't know, and where I have areas of expertise where I feel like I have standing to comment on something.
Yeah.
When it comes to the corporate responsibility structure within Microsoft, I have no fucking idea how it works.
Fair.
You have to remember, Xbox is not a company. It's a division, a relatively small division. Don't forget, Microsoft's core businesses are Windows, web services,
Zune,
increasingly AI, stuff like that. Xbox is a tiny piece of it, relatively, right? And they say, oh, we're going to keep supporting gaming, but they could shut it down tomorrow and Microsoft would be fine. They could just shut it all down tomorrow and Microsoft would still be a multi-trillion-dollar company.
Sure.
I don't even know who Phil reports to. Does he report directly to Satya? No. Is there someone between them? How much autonomy does he have as CEO? I'll give you an example. I'm sorry, this is going to annoy you. I'm going to give you.
Gary, you can never annoy me.
So I'm going to use a sports analogy.
Ah, fuck. Okay, as long as it's not soccer.
It is soccer.
Fuck.
So Manchester United. Even you've heard of them.
Of course.
Right? Historically, one of the great teams in world football. There's Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. Manchester United is one of those. Liverpool is among that elite group that everyone on the planet knows who Manchester United is. And they've achieved incredible things. The last 10 years or so, they've been shit. It's embarrassing what has happened to that club, right? And right now, the current manager, a man named Erik ten Hag, is having a terrible run. They're losing games. It's I feel if I didn't find it so hilarious, I'd feel sorry for Manchester United fans right now.
Yeah.
Because what they're going through is terrible, and that club deserves a lot better. There's a lot of conversation about should the manager be sacked, but around that is a bigger conversation of, well, is it his fault? Manchester United is a club that is so mismanaged at the corporate level, where you have these voracious asset stripping American owners that have saddled the company with all this debt and made all these terrible decisions and made it almost impossible made the job of the manager almost impossible, basically, because the structure around him is in such poor shape.
Sure.
So when things like this happen, you ask the question, well, whose fault is it? Like, is changing the manager even going to do anything? Because they're still going to be working under the same shitty corporate structure that the previous failed managers have had. So when you think of so the manager is the public face of the club, right?
Sure.
And they take the blame. The managers are off, in the background. You never see, so the owners, you never see them.
Right.
So the manager of a football club takes the heat when things go bad. They take the glory when things are good, but when things go bad, they take all the heat. Phil is the manager of the football club, right? He's the public face of it, but he's not necessarily the person responsible for the vast corporate structure around and above him. So I simply don't know who's responsible for the decisions that have brought Xbox to this point. I'm sure Phil has some autonomy and bears at least some responsibility, perhaps a great deal of responsibility. Does he bear all of it? No, because he's not the top man at Microsoft. So the answer is I just don't know. I don't have enough information to know whose fault this is. I only know that Phil is the public face of it.
And so that's what I think is so difficult for us as commentators and talking heads on the internet and chuckleheads who really just play video games and tell you if we like them or not, right? Is exactly what you nailed it, Gary. That's a salient point. You could have just said, Jerry Krause, Phil, and of course the 90s Bulls, but you did some weird soccer thing. That's fine.
I would argue that Manchester United is a much more well-known brand than the Chicago Bulls.
Michael Jordan, don't worry about him. The idea, though, I think you nail it, is right. Like, you asked a great point earlier, have we ever been part of a layoff, right? Layoffs. And I have not been laid off, but I was at IGN layoffs, right? And that's a great example of IGN layoffs didn't come because my editor-in-chief said we need to get rid of people. It came because his boss's boss's boss at the top of Ziff Davis was like, we need to eliminate X% of employees across the entire Ziff Davis structure. So this is where the domino falls, and you guys have to do it because you're not delivering on this thing. So you bring up a great point of, hey, somebody there is saying we need to make this more profitable. We need to do the thing. We're back to the line. This is where it gets interesting to, can you trust Xbox? Can you trust Phil? Should Phil go? Blah, 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 blah. We're lucky enough to have talked to Phil in person, on camera, off camera, whatever, right? I believe when Phil Spencer talks about creativity and games and the art of video games, I believe that's in his heart. I believe same thing Mike's saying, right? Of like, that's a real trait of this man. But then you're back to the corporate exec part of it. Do I think when him and Sarah Bond were in that video talking about, hey, we had to close down the Fable developer and we learned from that. Do I think when Phil was on our shows saying, hey, we're going to give Redfall time to develop. Hey, do I think he was lying? Do I think he was twirling his mustache when he turned off the camera? Absolutely not. I think what happened is that time went on, things changed. They bought Activision for a whole bunch of fucking money, right? In Blizzard for a whole bunch of fucking money and got caught in a giant thing. And now they need to make money on that. And I'm sure Microsoft is looking at Xbox going, you got to turn a profit. You got to do this thing, make cuts, do these things. And then back to the point of like, what can Phil do with that? I don't know. Could he have taken less money? Blah, blah, blah. Who knows what the actual options were, if that's actually something that can happen or if it only happens in movies and for people like us that are barely making it to begin with, that we would say we would do that for our employees, right? But I believe in his heart he feels that way. I believe there's a corporate structure on top of him making it impossible to do that, as we're seeing today, right? But then it is that idea of like, it is a joke on Kind of Funny content that Xbox is lining up the dominoes, and at some point they're going to kick over the dominoes and it'll be this huge fucking thing. That hasn't happened.
This episode's brought to you by Aura Frames. Looking for the perfect gift to celebrate the moms in your life? Aura Frames are beautiful Wi-Fi connected digital picture frames that allow you to share and display unlimited photos. It's super easy to upload and share photos via the Aura app, and if you're giving an Aura as a gift, you can even personalize the frame with preloaded photos and memories. Greg, Kevin, and a ton of people here at Kind of Funny are obsessed with their Aura frames. It takes about 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. You can add unlimited photos and videos and invite as many people as you want to a frame. Aura displays photos in true color and automatically adjusts for the light level of the room. At night, when you turn off the lights, your frame also turns off to save energy. From grandmothers to new mothers, aunts, and even the friends in your life, every mom would love an Aura frame. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame. That's AURA frames.com and use code KINDOFFUNNY at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. This episode's brought to you by Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers an unrivaled product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. Durable frames and world-class optics for all outdoor adventures. With an extensive array of styles and colors, you're bound to find the perfect pair of Shady Rays sunglasses. Y'all know I've been outside in the sun playing a lot of Pokemon Go, and it's such a great experience wearing Shady Rays when I am out and about looking dope. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you lose or break a pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Exclusively for you, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code KF20 for $20 off each pair of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. This episode's brought to you by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. I'm currently planning a wedding, so I know all about that. But when we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy helps you find your strengths so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. You can get out of your negative thought cycles and find some mental and emotional peace, and it can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. Some of my best friends use BetterHelp and love how helpful it can be for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist at any time for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit betterhelp.com/kindoffunny today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/kindoffunny.
And again, back to the article from Kotaku with Zach, right? He talks about like, basically Phil having the wheel since 2014. And so it is that thing of like, in terms of as the Xbox audience out here is arguing and saying this and should we do this or whatever, like Phil Spencer has not led Xbox to success. They are not the number one console. You know what I mean? They are
not even close.
Exactly. And he said that publicly, right? They are taking, I think they've made educated bets and educated guesses and done all these different things, but it hasn't paid off. And I don't know, because I'm, again, a moron who just plays video games, how long as a board you give someone to turn that around and make that vision a reality and da-da-da-da. And I don't know if the board in Microsoft shareholders look at this and go, this is the cost of doing business. Yeah, you closed it and you blinked away these jobs, but now the number goes up a little bit and the stock does whatever. And like, you and me are on the same page. Well, you too, Paris, but like you said, Gary, right? Like, who the fuck knows? it just seems like one of those of like, I understand and totally get the people who are in the chat right now going, Phil needs to be fired.
I think
really quick, Gary.
Yeah.
I am no fan of most CEOs.
Hey!
Keyword being most, being most. I think it's and I am not a fan of corporate structure. I'm not a fan of capitalism, and capitalist tendencies that lead to decisions like this. I think it's impossible to pin this on one person. I think,
of course,
systemically, this is a very tough situation for Xbox to be put in from Microsoft, from the leadership, but also at the same time, I feel like strategies that leadership has taken to counteract whatever they have to deal with their overlords in Microsoft proper haven't been the right steps. So I think it's it's both, I don't know what the answer is. I don't think it's just Phil needs to go. I think there needs to be an assessment of the entire C-suite Xbox team.
I want Paris to leave, but the one thing I want to pull from the chat, which wasn't a super chat, but I'm going to make an exception, was Phil is selling snake oil. And here's what I don't buy that argument for sure. I think Phil is taking chances and taking creative risks and doing Hi-Fi Rush happened, right, under his leadership. Xbox Game Pass and the cloud happened and none of them have paid off. So it's even a different argument of like, is he evil? No, we don't know, right? Probably not. But it's more the fact of like, are his decisions leading to the success of the company? Back to you, Paris.
Yeah. So the part that I wanted to jump in on is when we talk about Phil and just the messaging that we've seen over the past few years, even just the interview we did last year, he talked about he can see it. It's not there. Don't listen to him. Basically, actions speak louder than words when it comes to that. I think when you see the chat and you see the frustration with a lot of people, and I've seen this around the community as well, it's you made these acquisitions. You said, like Phil, when they acquired Bethesda, famously said that, hey, these Bethesda games are going to live wherever Game Pass is or something to that effect. And some of the things he said more recently about creativity and all that. It seems like, okay, you've dotted the I's, crossed the T's. You own these companies now. You never gave it enough time for the quote unquote plan to work. And I think that goes back to what Gary's talking about, is that pressure that's coming from above him. Where is it that clearly he had an idea on how they were going to use these acquisitions, but then we're not seeing that come to fruition.
Right.
So who is responsible for that? Who's making that decision that we are pivoting now? We obviously know just the way just tech in general is happening, everything's having a downturn. So you got to do whatever you need to do to survive, I guess, as a company. But then at the same time, we're talking about Microsoft. And why is Microsoft making these drastic of a decision? And I keep going back to it, and I apologize. It is so disheartening to see a studio like Tango go away when they made a game that we all loved. Yeah. I don't care how much is sold or not. That's supposed to be the point of Game Pass, right?
Yes. 100%, right?
What is I don't know what Microsoft's market capitalization is right now, but I know Microsoft is not a company that is struggling. Microsoft is printing money at the moment, right? Microsoft could, if they chose to, instead of having laid all these people off today and closed all these studios, doubled the salaries of everyone that they just laid off. And Microsoft would not, they barely even notice it. It's fucking money behind the money you find between the couch cushions for Microsoft.
I'm jumping into your earnings report for fiscal year 24 Q3. That's what came up. Yeah, April 25th, 2024. Microsoft Corp announced today the following results for the quarter ending March, blah, blah. Revenue was $61.9 billion and increased 17%. Operating income was $27.6 billion and increased 23%. Net income was $22.9 billion and increased 20%. Diluted earnings per share was $2.94, increased by 20%.
Yeah, like I said, Microsoft has probably made enough money. Microsoft, as the entire corporate entity, has probably made enough money since we've been on air to pay everyone that they laid off for another year. Right?
Yeah, probably.
The numbers are insane when you get to this level. Now, of course, they're not. I'm not naive. They're not going to do that. Of course, they're not going to do that. The shareholders would never, ever allow it. They're not going to stand for that kind of efficiency. The shareholders are obsessed with growth. All they want to do is see the numbers go up. I've said it a million times. Companies like Microsoft, Sony, PlayStation, the big movie studios, Warner Brothers, are all publicly held companies who are responsible to shareholders. These people are not patrons of the arts. Their job is not to foster creativity and bring joy and entertainment into the world. Their job is to increase shareholder value. That is all they do. And if they can do that by making great things, they will. If they can do it more efficiently or make more money by shutting things down, they'll do that. They don't. It's just an algorithm. I really believe there's studies that point to this. I read a thing in Scientific American several years ago. The richer you get, the less able you are to feel empathy, right? And so I honestly think that the higher you go up the scale, I think being a CEO or the chairman of a company of this size at some point becomes fundamentally incompatible with being a decent person who cares about other people, because you have to make decisions like this. You have to ruin hundreds of people's lives, right? And you've got to find a way to be okay with it. I couldn't do it. I flatter myself by saying I like to think, if you said to me, would you want to be the head of Warner? Like, would you want to run Warner Brothers? I would say no. I could never do it. You come to me and say, well, we've got to lay 500 people off. My first instinct, would like to think would be for me to say, well, how much are you paying me? Like, how much money are we trying to save here? Oh, this is going to save us $6 million. Oh, okay. Well, how much are you paying me this year in salary and stock options? 12 million, right?
Yeah.
Cut that in half. I'll still be extremely fucking rich, and these people won't have to be miserable and worried about, their children's health care. But again, it's even as I'm saying it, I know how ridiculously naive that sounds.
But
That's
those people
exist.
Those people exist. That's the thing, and I mean, I'm digging up skeletons from a long time ago, right? But if you want to talk about like the two most influential bosses I've had in the video game side of it, right? I would go to Jeremy Dunham and I would go to Hillary Goldstein, right? Both people who, Jeremy hired me at IGN, then eventually ran IGN editorial. When he left, Hillary came in and ran IGN editorial, right? Both of them ended up leaving the job because they were getting so much top-down pressure and bullshit to do different things and make us do it that they were like Michael Clark Duncan in The Green Mile. They were the sin eater taking it all, and they got to a point where I'm just like, I can't do this anymore, and they go, right? And then you get somebody else in there, and da-da-da. I'm not talking shit about those next few bosses or anything. I'm just saying, like, that's how it goes and what it is, and the break. And this goes back to the conversation specifically about film. We'll jump off of it because there's a million other things to talk about, right? But the idea of like, what is he getting from top down that he is making, that where he's saying this one thing a year ago, what has shifted in the past year and all the money they've fucking spent on these things to then be like, well, now you got to do this and you got to do that and you blah, blah, blah.
I mean,
the Xbox vision. I believe that they had a vision. I believe it hasn't worked. And I believe Microsoft's like, you got to make it fucking work.
There have been examples of CEOs and people at the top of companies who have said, I'm not going to take any salary. I'll take $1 salary or whatever so that we can do this. I think Iwata did it.
Iwata did it. Yeah.
But like, I mean, here's the most egregious, and I don't like him, so some people won't like this, but look at what's happening at Tesla right now. Tens of thousands of people being laid off, and meanwhile, Elon Musk is asking for $56 billion in additional compensation. In what kind of just world is that in any way morally defensible? It's so deeply offensive, and it's so against the way that human civilization should be structured. I don't even know where to start with it. It's making me angry as I'm talking about it right now.
Yeah,
it's all so deeply fucked up, Greg.